welcome to week 2 of LDR811. As you know by now, I'm Dr. Greg Parsons, and we'll be going through the assignments for week number 2. First thing, of course, is we always stop on the home page, take a look at the announcements. As you can see, they're starting to build up, so make sure you're up to date with all the announcements. And then we'll move right on to week number 2. Now here we have additional readings from the textbook, as well as some additional articles, and then a discussion. And then there's a reminder that you have a paper coming up in week number 3. So we're going to look at all of these. First, the discussion for week number 2. Now, as I mentioned in the overview of the class, as well as the week number 1 assignment video, that we are going to be running the discussions in a 2-week format, meaning that we're not over with the first week's discussion. We're just going to keep continuing it for the rest of this week. And consequently, rather than posting an initial post by Wednesday, I would like you to post earlier, if at all possible, because you are going to be responding to the previous posts. Okay? So we're going to be based upon the Bennis article of week number 1, and now we're going to be adding to it a different perspective provided by Bonds and Fiedler in an article that was written 15 years later called The Changes in Organizational Leadership and Behavior of Relationship and Task-Motivated Leaders. Now, Fiedler became one of the authorities on a type of leadership style called relationship leadership versus task-motivated leadership. And he started to say that it depended on the leader's style, whether they led by telling people what to do, giving them tasks, or they led by forming relationships with their followers, and so that the followers would tend to do what they wanted because they wanted to impress the leader, or they wanted to keep a strong relationship with the leader. So it was kind of, he brought up the idea that there were different types of leadership styles. Okay, and again, this should be contrasted with the earlier article by Bennis. So for this week's discussion assignment, you should look for the similarities and also the differences in the subject matter and the conclusions between the two articles, the week 1 article by Bennis and the week 2 article by Bonds and Fiedler. Okay, so you're not going to be doing a review of the Bonds and Fiedler article like we did of Bennis. We're going to be specifically focusing on those things that seem to carry forward from the earlier work and those things that are entirely new. And as I mentioned, you do not have to write what we would call an initial post, your 800 word supported by 5 outside references in APA style. You don't have to write that for Wednesday. What I would like you to do is, using the material based here, read the Bonds and Fiedler article and then post in a response mode. Can be shorter, can be based upon just your impression of things, but I would like to keep the discussion rolling on a more frequent basis rather than once every 4 days you say something. So I'll be jumping in and adding inspiration and motivation, and if you're not contributing the way I think you should be, you're going to be hearing from me. It's not a threat, it's just the way things are going to be. Okay, so we're changing things up a little bit, and it may take a little while to get used to this, but again, I think, in my humble opinion, that we should use the discussion post to actually talk to each other, as opposed to simply posting independent little articles that have really nothing to do with other things that have been written. Okay, and this is the approach we're going to be using. So looking ahead, in week number 3, you're going to have a paper due. It's called a taxonomy, but essentially it's a paper. And to help you with that, you should review the article by Pinder and Moore called The Resurrection of Taxonomy to Aid the Development of Middle-Range Theories of Organizational Behavior. Okay. This is supposed to provide you with sort of a sample or an example of how to use the taxonomy style of writing to compare and lay out different theories. What this is from the week 3, a more explicit description of what you need to do for the week 3 paper. And here it says create a taxonomy table. You're going to be using at least 10 different theories and comparing them, giving the who is the title of the who was the origin of the theory, what's the theory been called, what's the approach or general description of how the theory works, when the theory could be applied, any other things you find significant. Now, there's no specific page requirement on this, but if you do a good job, I would expect each theory of the 10 would take a good part of a page at least to cover the information that's needed here. And so, I think you can plan on a 10-page paper with not counting the title page and not counting the table of contents or the references. Okay, so I think this you should start looking into, because as you're doing some of your reading, you'll find the theories that you plan to present in your taxonomy paper in week number 3. I'm always trying to find ways you can leverage the work that you do in one assignment to use it in another assignment. So, the keys to success for week number 2. Focus on the assigned readings. If I tell you to download and read an article, that's what we're going to be talking about. There are other readings, textbook readings, different chapters, different articles, but the things that you're expected to write about, I want you to know about. I'll be providing feedback about your posts, and I expect you again to read those and make use of them in your next post. Each post should continue to be better. Look ahead to the next assignments. So there's a paper in week number 3, but then as you look into week number 4 and week number 5, you'll find there are more larger assignments. So you've got to plan your time when you're going to get these done. There's no problem with looking ahead and starting to work on things ahead of time. And I repeat this many times, don't make any assumptions. Okay? Just because it worked a certain way in a different class doesn't mean it's going to work the same way in this class. I'll be telling you with as much detail as I think I can about what I want, but you may still have questions. You may still not understand without a little bit more experience about what is really considered the best approach to some of these assignments. So ask questions in the classroom, use the email, and you can also phone or text. All right, so there's nothing else I need to cover for this week. I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July, and until the next time, goodbye and good luck. So, happy 4th of July.